Our tagline here is "Be courageous," but it's more than a tagline. It's that there's always fear, and there's always things that get in the way, and there's always reasons why we don't need to do the thing that we want to do. But being courageous means there's fear, all those things in the way, and you do it anyway.
Shout out to our partners at HVMN and Ketone IQ.
I am a big fan of Ketone IQ and exogenous ketones for racing, training, and everyday health. They give you extra energy, extra focus, and metabolic flexibility. But what exactly are ketones, you ask? Ketones are a fourth macronutrient, like carbs, protein, and fat. They also are fuel for your brain and clean energy without sugar or caffeine. I use one shot of Ketone IQ 30 minutes before I head out into a workout or training session. Another one 60 minutes later, and so on. I also sometimes take this just to focus during my workday. And for all my athlete viewers, there's no need to ditch your carbs. You can add exogenous ketones and Ketone IQ to your existing nutrition and fueling plan. Totally different kind of energy. HVMN and Ketone IQ are used by Olympic athletes like Des Linden, world champion triathlete Sam Laidlow, and top world tour cycling team Visma Lisa Bike. If you're ready to get on board and level up your nutrition and fueling plan, I've got a code for you. hvmn.com/Marnie for 30% off your first subscription order. Link in the show notes.
Well, Bethany, it is so awesome to have you on the Marnie on the Move podcast for a third time.
Oh wow, third time's the charm, yeah?
Yeah, that's what they say. So it feels like we were just doing the interviews yesterday, but yet it was like the first one was in 2018 when I first started my podcast, episode 21.
Okay.
The second one, I think, was episode 129. And that was like when you just launched digital.
Got it. Yes.
And
pandemic style.
Yeah, and that was before the pandemic. I think that was before the pandemic. No, It was 2021.
Yeah.
And here we are, 2024. I feel like you always have something new and exciting happening. So yeah, dial me into what's new and exciting. Wait, maybe I shouldn't say it that way, right?
Well, what's new and exciting?
Yeah, what's new and
exciting with
Lyons Den Power Yoga
Den is we were in a, I think as a lot of small businesses were for a long time, especially in NYC, we were in a getting out of a hole pattern for a while there, digging out and trying to rebuild. And then this fall, we just opened a new location, a new brick and mortar in Bryant Park. It's on West 39th between 5th and 6th. And it feels really good to be moving forward versus just digging out.
Yeah.
And it was a very different opening, and it's a very different neighborhood than we've ever been in before. The opening was 6 weeks from keys to doors open.
Wow.
Which is normally like 6 to 8 months.
Right.
And so we didn't have a big long runway with that, but we had a really good time with it, and we shot a music video to market it and launch it because the address is 54 West 39th Street, so we call it Studio 54.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome.
So we did like a whole Studio 54 themed video and utilized kind of the talents of our own team. We have so many performers and just really talented. We have a really talented choreographer who is also one of our teachers here, and a lot of performers within our own staff. So it was super fun to do that. So that's something that's brand new here, and it's nice to be in growth mode with our team. So the actual staff is growing, and our teaching team has therefore grown too because we have more opportunity.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank
and
you.
You're also expecting a baby.
Oh
and
yes,
pregnant.
I'm also expanding.
Yeah. So it's like all at once, right?
Yes,
like
all the expansion. So I was in my first trimester during the opening of that studio. I highly do not recommend that.
Yeah.
But that was just what happened.
Right.
And we are at 30 2 weeks now.
Amazing. So when are you due? Because I can't count.
It's the best due date. Ready? 4/24/24.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you do like the numerology and everything around that already? Or?
No. No, I have to be malleable and roll with what's happening and, equanimous about all the things. So.
Got it. So speaking of like malleable and rolling with what happens, I mean, the last 5 years, I'm just dialing it back and rewinding for a second because, I know that a lot of my listeners follow your story, especially New Yorkers, right, that practice with you. But it hasn't been like the easiest 5 years, but it's also been an amazing 5 years, but I'll let you sort of share. But how have you been able to really, being over a decade in your practice, like how have you been able to leverage all of the yoga that you have studied, that you have taught in that sort of period between the pandemic and all the things that have been happening to where we are now? And what sort of yoga lessons did you lean into?
Wow, okay, that's a lot.
It's like 75 questions in one. It's very Marnie on the move.
So, I really utilize the tools that we have in this practice on the regular, on the daily. I mean, I think the whole idea of particularly asana practice, I mean, it's only one of the 8 limbs and, a piece of yoga, but definitely asana practice, I view it like it's a microcosm of the greater piece. And it's great to try things out on that little tiny rectangle.
Right.
Whether it's like, I'm gonna take my foot off the floor for the first time in crow pose, or, I'm gonna take a leap of faith and take a leapfrog, or, I'm getting on the mat and modifying in a really different way because I'm working with an injury, or now I'm pregnant, or whatever it is. And the ability to be able to transfer those things off the mat.
Right.
So if I'm able to, try on something new or roll with it there, then I can do that elsewhere in my life.
Right.
And, a keystone pillar of our practice is drishti, which is, baseline is where you set your eyes, but it's really
Right.
what your focus is. Like,
Right.
what am I focused in on? And what is my drishti? Where am I going? And so when, for example, 1 month prior to the pandemic, our studio was on fire, my drishti wasn't on like the calamity of it and the sort of the trauma of it, but really like what needs to happen. We were in the middle of a 300 hour, we needed a space, like what do I need to do to move this forward?
Right.
And that was really how I took on the pandemic. It was like one day at a time, what do we need to do right now to make this happen? And then coming out of it. It's been the same, and we've had a lot of changes. We lost a location. I gave up our Tribeca location. It was 2 floors, and it was a beast of a studio.
Right.
And also, like, most of Tribeca moved out.
Yeah,
for
everybody left New York.
Yeah, everybody left, And I knew that not that it wasn't going to come back, but I knew it was going to be definitely a period of time before that came back in the way that it needed to. And I just don't have that bandwidth in, a chunk of change just sitting somewhere.
Right.
So I had to, in order to protect our viability as a business, I was like, you just got to let go. So as soon as that happened, it was actually like a huge weight off me. And then I was really able to focus on our Chelsea location, focus in on our Lyons Den digital platform, and then look ahead to like, well, where are we going to grow next?
Right.
And that all comes from putting attention on what I want versus what I don't want.
Right.
And looking for the possibility, looking for the solution versus staying in a modality of complaint or what it should be. And all of those like lenses, we could say, are very yogic. It's non-attachment. It's like, oh, but it shouldn't be this way. Oh, this shouldn't have happened to us. Oh, this shouldn't. It's like, but it did. So what are we going to do about it?
Right. Like, what's the solution?
Yeah.
You're so good at that, though, because, you're a business owner. you're going to be a mom, you're a dog mom, you're in a new relationship. Like, you have so many things going on, and like, you're just so good at, like, just, I only know this from your Instagram, right? But I mean, you know, I've been following along all this time, and it's like, you know, as much as there's chaos going on around you, you're so good at like staying focused and finding solutions. I'm sure that's Instagram, and it's probably like not the same thing in your head all the time, but.
Well, I mean, I don't really like to share things that aren't real, to be honest. So, I mean, am I just like all the time just the most focused individual, you know, 100% of the day? No, but generally speaking, is that really like how I show up? Yeah, just like who I am in the classroom is who I am now. I might be a little bit more casual in my speech. I might share different things with my, you know, like best friends than I'm going to when I'm in the front of the room. But I'm the same person that I am here. You're not gonna have me at the front of the classroom and then you go outside, you're like, who is this woman? Never met her before. And I know that on social there's like a highlight reel, but I share a lot of stuff that's really not in any sort of highlight, but it's what's real and true for me, and it helps me process things, to write.
Yeah, you're a great writer.
Share. Thank you. To write and to also share those things, and I think it's a really powerful practice for us in connection, which is yoga, to be able to share not only the highlights, like, oh, look at this great new thing I have going on, but also like, I was in my second trimester, and my absolute, I mean, she's my best friend. She was my like soul being. Josie, she was my first dog, but I don't think I ever even referred to her as a dog. I remember like Jay being like, "Do you need to take the dog out?" I was like, "Do you mean Josie?" Like, I don't know. we had a very special connection, and she was in my life for 13 years, and I opened the studio. I did everything with her, and I didn't even realize how much I did with her. And she died rather suddenly, and I was in this like really weird space of having one of the greatest times of my life. I just opened this new studio, and I'm in the second trimester, and I'm finally like not vomiting and feeling better, and I should be so happy. Yeah. And we're heading into the holiday season, and I'm a holiday girl, and like all those things, and I was just taken down to, I don't know, not even the knees. I was just down and out, and it's the most palpable, tangible grief I have ever gone through. And I think actually through that grief, I got to grieve a lot of things. Right. Maybe that have happened, but that's the dichotomy of life, There's like, it's not all good and it's not all bad. It's not all happy and it's not all sad. It's all of those things all at the same time, and being able to be in the moment with that. Yeah. And in one moment really cry and, use up an entire box of tissues. And in the next moment be able to feel this little guy kick and be like, wow, this is crazy. Yeah. And, be so amazed with where my life is now as compared to where it was, just a few years back personally. Yeah. Is, I don't know. That's life. Life be lifing, Yeah,
no, I mean, I think it's great. I think, and during our last conversation on the podcast, like something you said to me, like I've literally thought about it every day, and I think about it every day because I did my yoga teacher training, and I just like want to thank you for this, because also to your point of like life is life and like life is yoga and kind of leaning into all of that stuff, it's that I did my yoga teacher training, and I've not really taught any yoga classes because I just have another career, right? Like I did it for
asana in the room,
asana in the room, right? And so you had said to me that like, Marnie, you use your yoga practice every day in your business, and I was like, it was like my aha moment. And I literally like thank you for that, because like even during the pandemic, I was like, use yoga, like find your yoga, like every day though, I'm constantly, as a business owner also like constantly thinking, oh, this didn't happen or this happened. And, you know, I always am reminding myself to like find what's positive about a situation and try to be solution oriented for things that don't work, instead of like freaking out and staying in the minutia and, you know, spiraling in those.
Yeah.
And that's really like, I think so much of what I learned from yoga.
Yeah, it's applicable. If we don't actually apply it outside of the yoga room, the studio, then we're missing the plot.
Yeah.
You know, and yoga looks different times. I mean, like it just does.
I think everybody needs to like practice yoga or like read one of my favorite yoga books, and I didn't write this down, so of course you'll be able to. It's by, and I don't know if this is not politically correct anymore, BKS Iyengar.
Yeah.
He wrote, what was his first book?
Light on Yoga.
Yeah, that's like one of the best
It's amazing yoga
books
book.
I've ever read.
Iyengar is, one of the most amazing teachers.
Yeah.
You know, we learn from teachers are not deities.
Right.
Teachers are not perfect people. Teachers are people, and they inspire us or they help us grow in certain ways, just like a coach does. It doesn't mean the coach is a perfect person or doesn't. And so this isn't to like, I don't know, sweep under the rug or anything that you've ever had from any teacher, really. But we have to like, what did I get from this this thing, and not put our every single teacher, every single mentor, every single coach we've ever had, anyone that we look up to in any realm, and then there's one thing that is not in alignment, and we just like throw everything out. It's not.
I think that has happened a lot over the past few years.
I think it's wild and crazy and unfortunate, and that's again not to discount accountability and all of that good stuff and all those buzzwords, but it's to a point where I mean, like, you know, we're just looking for what anyone does wrong at this point.
Talk to me about, speaking of yoga and philosophy and practice, you know, talk to me about your philosophy here at Lyons Den Power Yoga, the kind of yoga you practice, or
what we do here.
Yeah, what you do.
So we do what we have done from the jump. We've been open we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary, we call it. And it's Baptiste Yoga. The methodology works if you work it. It's guided me through not only asana practice, but my business, my life, my divorce, I went through a divorce without lawyers using Baptiste methodology. And because we were on the same page about that.
Wow.
Which is like pretty impressive, right? Like, what are we a yes for? What are we a no for? What do we need to give up? And we're ready now to deal with it. And that was it. And we really stayed true to that. So it has informed, really every piece of my life. It's also very easy to make decisions in a business when you're talking about, so there's like 3 themes in Baptiste Yoga. Be a yes, give up what you must, and come from your ready now. And being a yes is like, what are you for? Like, what do you say you're for?
Yeah.
And so when things are showing up that you're not really for, it's very easy. You have to be a no for a lot of things to be a yes for something.
Okay.
And so, for example, if you have someone on your staff that is, we'll just use like gossiping.
Okay.
Okay. You have a person on your staff that's like gossiping, and that's like their way of being. And you coach them, and you talk to them, and you go, hey, this is not what we're about here. What we're about here is community and connection and speaking straight to each other. And if there's an issue, you go, blah, 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 blah. And then either they take that coaching and they get on board, or they don't.
Right.
And then we have a second conversation. We go, hey, this is really important. I'm telling you, this doesn't work. And the third conversation is, I'm a yes for clear communication and a safe environment and a great team that supports each other, which means I'm a no for you being a part of it right now. It's just that simple.
Right.
End of conversation. It's not dramatic. It makes things very clear.
So if it's not moving you forward in a positive direction, or it's just something you're not on board with, like you need to get rid of it.
Then it's time to move on,
Yeah.
you know? So that's the style we have practiced. It's the style we teach here. We stay really true to it. I believe in staying true to what you do. Not that you can't, you know, branch off in certain things, but I think that the impetus to make things new by just doing all different things is not really effective a lot of times. And I am all about excellence and mastery. So we are about how can we deliver this better always? How can we master this more versus, well, what new trick or what new thing can we throw at you?
So you're not gimmicky. You're more
Never.
like true to the style. And so the classes are, what is the room heated to in the classroom?
Room is somewhere between like 91 and 96, somewhere around there, depending on the humidity in the room, and that really depends on the tapas that the students are generating.
Right.
A lot of times, because that's the real heat we're looking for. Our classes are all open level. We don't have like levels to the classes, but you can work at your own level. So
Right.
we say this is really for anybody. It's very adaptable. It's very modifiable. You can add variation, go with your bad self, be in full expression. And we are definitely a heated power vinyasa studio. So even though you're invited, it's not for everybody.
Right.
And that's okay too, because we have people sometimes come in and like, oh, could you have non-heat classes? Oh, could you do this? Oh, could we do this? And I'm like, no, because it's not what we do. It's like
Right.
going to a really great French restaurant and asking them to make you a great bolognese.
Right.
It's like,
This is
no.
not-
Could that chef do that? Sure. But is that what we do? No.
So I love the energy in the room. You know, I've taken a couple classes here over the years, and it's so funny that you say it's not for everyone, right? Because when I first practiced with you, like I was a little bit, like the heat was hard for me.
Yeah.
Right, and I've always been upfront about that, right? But I love the practice, and you know, Lori loves the practice, so she was the one who kind of got me, like, my partner, to come to take class, and so. But it's so crazy because I love it now so much. Like, I don't know if it's because I'm older, maybe it's my hormones, but like the heat is really working for me.
That's awesome.
Like it feels great, and I don't know if it's because I'm like such an intense runner or triathlete that now it just feels so good
Well,
for
the
me to
infrared
relax.
heat is like the kind of heat we have here is not the heat that blows at you. It's just heat that you come in, you're like, oh, it's warm in here, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, it is more than warm in here. It's like, but it's like sunshine that it heats, objects. It heats our bodies. It doesn't heat the space. So it's not like you're like breathing in this hot air. It's more like it just gets you from the inside out.
It feels so good.
It's fantastic. I mean, I love it for a ton of reasons, but I think it's particularly great for people like us and for people that are New Yorkers, people that are type A squared, type A cubed, all of these people, because it provides an intense enough environment that is supportive at the same time that there's no way in which I or you can really be anywhere else than very present, because you're up against something, and so you have to focus on your breath. You have to focus in on a drishti point. You have to like spread your toes and be in your foundation. You can't be like, what are we gonna have for dinner tonight? You will just be like yoga roadkill. So
Totally.
You have to be present, and so it actually, the intensity of it and the heat of it and the physicality of it provides a mental vacation.
I feel like, that is a really good point, and I feel like when you're ready for something, then you are ready for it.
Yeah.
And I don't think I feel like there's just, to me, like just coming back to the practice, it's been amazing because I think like everything you just said, you're focusing on breathing and doing the asanas and not focusing on like what the next thing is. I feel like that a lot in swimming.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Because I don't have my headphones. I don't have my phone. Even on my bike when I go out for a ride, and I'm just using these metaphors because, a lot of my listeners are runners or triathletes. And, and I think that, there's just as someone who's been practicing yoga as long as I have and also an athlete, like without yoga, I could not do any of the things that I do. And I feel like over the past few years, my practice has been like hit and miss.
Yeah.
And I also feel like my training has been hit and miss.
It will, I mean,
it's a game changer.
It will up the ante across the board. I mean, we have plenty of people here who are, 20-time marathon runners, all that kind of stuff, and a lot of triathletes. And what started happening when people started coming here from those different sects is their time started getting better.
Yeah.
And so then word started spreading like, oh, this actually helps. It's a great, sister or cousin modality to be a part of. And all of those things, like you can be in a meditation while moving and swimming. You can be in that state running. Those are all different modalities of physicalness. You can use the same principles of yoga in. So if getting on the mat is just not your yoga, that's okay too.
Right.
And having an open enough mind to be flexible in your mindset and flexible in your take on it versus flexible in your body. Because I have a lot of athletes who will come, I can't get on the mat because I'm not flexible enough. Like it's just such a it's the most common thing that I hear as an excuse not to, and it's the biggest reason to get on the mat.
Right.
And then, okay, well, if you can't touch your toes, then bend your knees. Like there's
so many options. Like if you're an athlete, like you shouldn't be making excuses, but I understand.
Yeah.
And
then you got to find somebody, and you have to find something that works for you too.
Right.
I mean, you don't have to go from nothing to a 90-minute class with no music. You could try on a 60-minute class with music. Maybe that will work for you better. Kind of work your way. And also if you try on one type or one instructor or one studio and that doesn't work for you, it doesn't mean yoga in general doesn't.
Right.
We got to
there's so many different kinds of, yoga is yoga, right? But there's so many different variations and inspirations. And styles. I think also the heat is great, for anyone who's doing training in the summer, because you really learn how to breathe in the heat, and
all
your
conditions.
body can really thrive, and you learn how to hydrate, which is so important, right? I'm selling yoga to my triathlete listeners. Everybody must do yoga. And so for anyone who's listening who doesn't live in Manhattan and can't come to Chelsea or Bryant Park, right? You have an entire suite of digital content.
Yeah, we have a very robust platform. It's called Lyons Den Digital, and we have a whole section in Lyons Den Digital, if you're a monthly subscriber, that breaks down all the poses one by one. So you can really, if you're brand new to it, you can tap into that. We have everything from 25-minute classes to 90-minute classes. We have classes with music, classes without music, a really great team. And we have new content 7 days a week, plus a library of about 80 classes available all the time. And then we do specific filmed classes that are, content specific or artist specific, you just can't get enough, even though I can't imagine that you haven't at this point, but you can't get enough of Taylor and you want to take a Taylor class, we got her.
So you have a Taylor Swift yoga class?
Oh, for sure we do.
That is totally my jam.
It's kind of epic, I have to say.
Yeah, I remember.
We did the entire, when she re-recorded Red, we did.
Oh wow, that's amazing. Have you promoted that on TikTok to 16-year-olds? I know a 16-year-old that would do it.
Okay, great. Well, I will tell that to my social media manager. Let her know.
That's so funny. And so, do you ever in your IRL in-person classes, do you ever switch up the sequencing, or is it mostly the same sequencing for each class?
So we have a backbone, which is Journey into Power, which is a set sequence. And it can be 20 minutes, it can be 90 minutes, it can be 3 hours. But it has 11 sequences in it, and it's very structured. What we do here is we take that structure, and you will always see that thread of that structure. But it's when I'm teaching new teachers and when I'm teaching my own team about it, I say, Journey into Power is jingle bells.
Right.
And you have to know jingle bells from front to back. You need to know it in and out. And then once you do, then you can jazz riff off of it.
Okay, I love that.
So you know, we'll take a tributary out and we'll come back in. You might take a little variation out and you come back in, but you'll never come in here and be like, I have no idea where, like, you know what you're getting to a degree.
Right.
And you know that you're going to do standing poses. You know you're going to do twists. You know you're going to do back bends. You know you're going to do hip openers. Like, you know you're going to start with sun salutations. There's a common thread to it, so you're never going to be like, what was that class?
Right.
And we add variation all the time.
Right. Okay. I mean, I've been to, like, I don't, once the heat goes on and you start talking, I completely have no idea what's happening, and I'm just like listening and following directions.
Yeah.
And I leave class and I'm like, I don't even remember what asanas I did.
Well,
I don't know that. That's like the story of my life.
Yeah,
anyway,
we will never leave you half baked. I don't think Yoga Brain is only you. We find blocks downstairs at the bottom of the stairs. People leave, they don't even know what happened to them.
Yeah.
So I get it.
It's a great feeling, I have to say, though. And then in terms of, like, you know, for my athlete listeners, what do you think are some of, like, the top maybe 5 or 6 asanas that every athlete needs to be practicing, that they could go either to one of your digital classes or they can, like, Google the asana, because everyone does that. But what are they?
I mean, your your one-stop shop, not one-hit wonder.
Yeah.
No.
We're not talking about, like, past musicians now.
No. Just your one-stop shop pose is downward facing dog.
Okay.
And then it's going to engage pretty much your entire body. It's gonna, it counteracts so much that we do in life. It helps open up your hamstrings. It's like, I mean, it's all the things, number one. Another, like, has to happen is a forward fold. And a forward fold, feet hip width distance. You can take a block between your thighs, so you squeeze your legs, so you take it out of your back. It's really important that the forward fold is not coming from the mid or upper back, but really from the hip hinge at the top of the thigh bone.
Like a deadlift.
Yeah, and so you can bend your knees as much as you want, so your ribs come down onto your thighs. You could have your hands on blocks, hands on the floor, and then as you start to open up, then maybe the legs straighten a little bit more and you really ground into your feet. So a ragdoll, forward fold, a downward facing dog. Hip openers. I mean, there's so many things that are hip openers that we don't really think about as hip openers. I mean, back bends are hip openers.
Right.
Warriors are hip openers. All those things are. But I think taking on crescent lunge, which is
that's always so hard for me.
You drop your back knee, though,
okay,
down either to the ground or a rolled up towel or like a cushy block. We have kind of cushy blocks here for this reason. And then you really engage pelvic floor, and you can get into psoas, you can get into hip flexors, like all your hip flexors,
like what
hip flexors and all the
into.
things.
Yeah.
Which is, it's hard, it's a deep muscle, really hard to get to. You can get into your hip flexors and your groin, so that's a great pose to stay in. Crescent lunge.
Crescent lunge, okay.
But I'm modifying it with like a knee down and real emphasis on this front of the pelvis lift. And then, I mean, the pigeon poses, half pigeon, half double pigeon, and you don't have to be on the ground. You know, you can bring yourself up on blocks, you can have your legs stacked, you can stay upright. But those hip openers, they're great to do during also like your favorite show. You're watching like a half hour, whatever. You're on Netflix, you're on whatever you're on, Hulu. And you put on a timer and you're 10 minutes with the right leg. And you just watch a show and then the timer goes off. Oh, switch legs. 10 minutes. You don't have, it doesn't have to be a big deal.
Right. Like just do any kind of moderation. Like
exactly. Modification.
Modification. Yeah. Thank you. Not moderation. And then
podcast speak.
Yeah, totally. And then in terms of, you know, speaking of like specific asanas, like also a big part of yoga is breath work and breathing. Mm-hmm. And there's been a lot of talk lately in the athlete community around nose breathing, which is something that we do in yoga. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's not even, it's like just part of breathing. It's like you come into class and you inhale and you exhale through your nose.
For this practice that we do, this is a specific type of pranayama. So pranayama is like breath work, right? Breathing techniques. And there's some that are not that, right? There's some that are belly breath, breath of fire, kundalini, things like that.
Right.
But ujjayi breath, which is the breath that we practice here, it's actually a throat breath, but it's in and out through your nose. Okay. So there's a little constriction in the back of the throat at the glottis, and it creates like an underwater sound, talking about swimming, where you can hear that breath in and out, and it creates texture and sound, and balance and focus, and it also generates heat. It's really good for regulation as well. But that's something that is a thread throughout the entire practice until you hit Shavasana, and then you just let your breath go. But having control over your breath is huge, and really focusing in on your exhale and getting your exhale all the way out is what will tone your diaphragm the best.
Okay.
To then allow you to breathe more deeply. And it will also allow you to slow your breath down more quickly than focusing in on inhales.
And so now, just like in the whole like world of athleticism, people are talking about nose breathing, like when they're running, like inhale and not ujjayi or ujjayi breathing. But
no, you're not doing that.
No, but like it's interesting though, like how all these things from yoga are like always coming up for athletes, and obviously, you know, there's a lot of people who listen to this that are yoga practitioners that are looking to take their practice to a next level. Some teachers maybe that are doing teacher training. And I know you just have a new teacher training that you're doing. And this is the first one after the pandemic?
It is. So I did one that was virtual with several other studio owners, which was super fun. We called it Reinvented during the pandemic.
Okay.
Which we had 50 people in it.
Wow, that's a big class.
Yeah, it was a big teacher training online, and it was Tammy Schneider from Cleveland Yoga. We had Patty Ivy from Down Dog in DC, and then we had Cindy Weiss from Breathe in upstate New York, and myself. And that was something that would have never happened had the pandemic not happened, because it was like you have all these lead facilitators all coming together, and we did that. So that was really cool and different and fun and unique in the environment. And also we weren't in person, which that, there's something to that. There just is, you know, as much as it's fantastic to have all of this technology and be able to be on all these Zooms and all that stuff, you have to have like just like touch,
in person.
You know, like in person,
it's such a big
it's such a different thing in communication. So when we first opened back up after the pandemic and people started asking fairly quickly about teacher training, I was like, people are not even ready for a teacher training. People are in such a trauma response right now. People can't even be in a room together and look at each other, let alone breathe together. When people first started coming in, it was just like, okay, you're gonna look at your neighbor, just look at them. Look back at the thing. Let's breathe in a room together. I mean, really had to like baby steps back in. We were not guns blazing with classes right at the get-go. And so as that then progressed, and then more people started getting in the room, and then people were more comfortable being around people, then it became like, okay, this is now accessible. I also do a lot of coaching. I give a lot of feedback during teacher training. People were not in a headspace to be receiving feedback. That was not my take on the world. Everybody was like losing their mind about every single thing. People were very stressed, anxiety levels super high, offended about it. I'm like, what am I gonna, how am I gonna teach a teacher training right now when I would have to candy coat pretty much anything and everything being said, and that's just not my way. And so, I mean, I'm kind, but I'm direct. And I don't want to really I don't want to do a watered down version of a teacher training. So this felt like, okay, we're ready now. People are like raring to go. And I have to say, this is the most game, like in it to win it group I've ever had. I mean, while there's still, you know, there's trepidation around getting at the front of the room or anything like that, there hasn't been really any pushback to it. They're game for it. They're like here to do the thing. And
that's
amazing. Is so fun, because then it allows us to do so much more. They've already taught like full rooms of people, like the full room of people, which is not normal for a 200 hour.
It's a 200, I was gonna ask you.
Yeah, it's 200 hour. We're going into weekend 6 of 8.
Wow. And so you read a lot of books and do a lot of other work besides just asana practice. So what are some of the books that you study?
So, I mean, Light on Yoga for sure is one of them. We have this very specific anatomy book we're using. What else are we using? And then we have a specific sutra book that we're using because instead of doing sort of a weekend where we fire hose you with anatomy and physiology, and then like a weekend where we like delve into all the history and all the things in the sutras. We're really kind of peppering it out throughout.
Okay.
Which is awesome because I have a team here who can do that.
That's great.
Which is amazing, which is not usual.
Right. And so during your teacher training, it's 200 hours, you'll have asana practice and teaching, and the students will have to, I talk with my hands so much. The students will have to, I know, but like if you chat GPT me, it's like Marnie Salve talks with her hands. That you're using, do you use a Bhagavad Gita or you don't really?
We have in the past, we didn't.
You didn't?
We have required readings, and then we have also, here are optional, or here's, other things to look into.
Yeah.
But we're really focusing in on as much as we can do in real time and in real life as possible.
Yeah.
We haven't, I'm constantly on the search and the hunt for like what is the latest book that I love and then can share from it. Like right now I'm reading Atlas to the Heart, or Atlas, whatever, Brené Brown's like newest.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's fantastic. And a lot of it is so much, there's so many things that correspond yoga-wise.
Oh, that's interesting. I like that sort of modern twist that you bring in, like current literature.
But that's for my own.
Right.
I'm always in that search and in that hunt, and what I watch and what I take in and who I'm interested in listening to, following, whether it's, comedy or a book or a show or a movie or anything,
Yeah.
I'm also reading a book called I'm Not a Mourning Person, but like mourning grief.
Okay.
That is fantastic.
Really?
As well. Yeah, right now. And it all relates back to these same principles.
And so how are you feeling now? Obviously you're pregnant and you're practicing.
Yeah,
Are you how's your
practice? I'm hot, actually.
It's hot. Yeah, it is hot. We turned off the fans. I'm like, how are you feeling? Because I'm like, I know that she must be dying right now. But so how are you feeling in terms of like your practice and being pregnant, and how has that journey been?
Well, I was really practicing pretty avidly through my first trimester when I wasn't feeling like super ill, but you know, and then I was feeling good about it moving into the second trimester, and then really I just was on my couch for about a month after Jose. That was just what was happening, and that's what needed to happen during that time. And now I'm still practicing, but it's modified in a way that I didn't expect. So, meaning I can't count on it. Like some days I get up and I'm ready to go. I can like do all the things. And other times, even though I'm modifying, obviously, I'm like taking my feet wider, and I'm like, there's a million things that changed up. However, some days I can take 2 stairs at a time and I'm great, and I'm running around and I can get on the mat and practice. And then there's other days where I'm like, can I shuffle to the top of this mat? Is it possible? And I take 1 set of stairs and I'm out of breath.
Wow. Okay.
And that is, or I go to do something, to engage something, and it just doesn't happen. Like I don't have the strength, because my strength is being utilized to like, I don't know, build a brain that day. Like that's what's happening. And I've always been able to like get my giddy up no matter what, or get my second wind, or if I need to make something happen, I can. And a couple weekends ago, I was assisting one of the classes for teacher training, and I knew I was going to modify how I was assisting or whatever, but I went to assist someone in chair pose, and I like went to activate and then like have this person come back and activate my legs, and I just didn't have the strength. And it's one of the first times I've ever been like, my legs are not strong enough to do this right now. And I had to literally I stayed with them, but just dropped down to one knee. And then right after that, I went out of the room and was like, I have to go get a coconut water. That is what is happening right now. And it was I've been a very strong person. Yeah. Since I was 4, I don't know. I can't remember any time I haven't been physically really strong. My leg's not strong or whatever. And so I have to be, hey, I think I'm going to do this today.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to try this today. And then if I do, great. And if that's not what's happening today, well, that's not what's happening today. So I've really had to give up more control than ever.
Okay.
Because
that's hard for the type A.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of rolled with it.
Yeah.
I have to say pretty well. I'm, just trying to go, oh, okay, this is what's happening right now. And you're also doing my dad, he just keeps going, you're making a person. It's the most important job. You're making a person.
That's so cute.
So every time I'm like, oh yeah, I'm making a person. That's what's happening right now. That's why I can't do this warrior one.
It's temporary.
Yeah.
It's temporary.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, this has been so wonderful to connect with you. I'm so excited. I'll have to come visit you in Bryant Park.
It's a beautiful. It's a beautiful studio.
I love Chelsea. I mean, I love coming back here. This is my old neighborhood.
It's a great place.
Yeah.
I mean, but New York is great.
New York is awesome.
And New York ain't dead.
No, it's not. Definitely not.
Yeah.
Is there any last advice or words you have for my listeners?
I don't know if I've said this on prior ones, but it's really what we stand behind here, which is just a phrase. I mean, our tagline here is "Be courageous," but it's more than a tagline. It's that there's always fear, and there's always things that get in the way, and there's always reasons why we don't need to do the thing that we want to do. But being courageous means there's fear, all those things in the way, and you do it anyway. So I don't know anything in my life that has happened that I haven't had to take a risk or a leap of faith, and there was definitely failure as an option, or I did fail at it actually numerous times, several times, whatever, many times until I was successful at it. But those things are the things that light up my life, not the things that dropped into it and that I didn't have to muster up the courage to go after.
That's amazing. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.